What is up, YouTube? This is Kai and Cannon from RQP Georgia Sports, and today we are going to be recapping Conference Championship Week. A couple big games that really decided the playoff. So we're going to start all the way at the bottom with Temple putting the hurt on Navy in an upset. And then Western Michigan is now 13-0, completing the undefeated season, beating Ohio in the MAC championship. Then West Virginia beating Baylor in a game that didn't mean too much, but West Virginia gets the W. Oklahoma beating Oklahoma State, and this was basically the first ever unofficial Big 12 championship game, because this was for the Big 12 championship, but it wasn't official. Did you watch part of this game, right?
I watched pretty much every game.
He even watched Louisiana Tech, but
Yes, I did.
Wisconsin, losing to Penn State in Penn State's second half comeback, they stormed
11-2, win over Ohio State, and a championship. A very good year for Penn State.
and they're not in the playoff.
We'll mention that later. Clemson went over Virginia Tech 42-35. So
I watched the end of this game.
Alabama.
Clemson's a good team. You cannot.
They cut it a little close. I feel like Virginia Tech was kind of in it the whole game.
And by the way, just a quick reminder: Deshaun Watson has been nominated as one of the 3 candidates for the Heisman Trophy. Just so you know.
Alabama taking a hammer down on Florida. They're one of only 2 FBS teams, them and Western Michigan, that are undefeated, 54-16 over Florida.
Let me say something.
Let
me say something. There was a short spark for Florida to lead a comeback in this game. A very short. Okay, so Florida was scored before halftime, made it 33-16. And then Florida got the ball, got all the way down inside the 2-yard line, and they couldn't punch it in, because if they had punched it in, that's a 10-point game. Probably changes the momentum a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that could have been a huge point to turn around. But Alabama's defense, they're just gonna come after you. They may let you get a field goal. They will let you get a field goal. They won't let you get a touchdown. Florida managed to score 1 touchdown, and was that offensive?
2 touchdowns. They scored 2 touchdowns, actually.
Safety. 2 touchdowns.
No,
and a
safety.
There was a blocked extra point
returned all the way
for a safety. And then Colorado lost to Washington, huge, 41-10. Now that will conclude our recap. But now we're going to go into the rankings. So it's very big, because this will determine who is in and who is not in the playoffs. Alabama, number 1, no big surprise. Clemson moved up 1 spot. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4,
Washington.
Okay, so listen here. We have a team who is 11-1, no conference championship. They won a game on a bad call, and that kicked Michigan out. So Michigan would have still been in if they hadn't gotten that one bad call against Ohio State. So they would have been in. Penn State, conference championship, head-to-head win over Ohio State. If you went to just huge college football fans, or even people on the committee, and you asked them, would you pick to be the better team, Ohio State, or would it be Penn State? I think it would be very hard for them to say Ohio State, because they have a head-to-head loss, and they don't have any championship.
The one thing that's going their way is Ohio State. Okay, Ohio State, it was a bad call.
They have a win against Michigan, though.
It was a bad call, but it is a win against Michigan. Regardless, the committee can't just say, "Oh, the refs blew it. We can't count that." No, they can't do that. They have a win against Michigan, and they only have 1 loss. Penn State has 2. and
But
Ohio
Penn State has
and
one
Penn
more
State
win.
and Michigan slapped Penn State hard.
But Penn State has a conference championship, and they have a head-to-head win against Ohio State.
Yes, but
I would call Penn State over Ohio State, and I would kick Ohio State out.
Now listen,
Although, you see, it was crazy to listen to.
Let me make this clear.
Because people were
Make this clear.
People were acting as if Ohio State had a guaranteed spot in the playoffs, and I think that's completely ridiculous. I think you kick them out and have Washington and Penn State. No. Because, I don't see how you can keep them out. People are saying, oh, the Big Ten's the best conference in the country. Well, if so, then how come a championship of that conference does not get you in the playoffs? I think that's completely ridiculous.
Now, let me make this clear. I am completely on your side. I think Penn State should definitely be in the playoff. But let's try to look why Ohio State's in. Because the committee is not stupid.
They just have one more win.
They're gosh darn a lot smarter than you about football. I can tell you that.
All they have is one more win and a win against Michigan. Penn State has a bad loss and a loss against Michigan.
The loss to Michigan was a bad loss because they got smacked. Bad.
Well, yeah, but it's, in my opinion, one of the top. Other than Alabama, I think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, but they got hit bad. It was bad. It was a blowout. They got blown out like other teams Michigan played this year.
Yeah, but that was early in the season.
That doesn't excuse
they're a much
it.
better
It's still
team
a
now.
blowout.
They're
It's
a much
still
better
a
team now
blowout
than they were before. So early in the year, often the committee will forgive you if you have a bad loss early.
This is where the committee made the mistake. It was not this week because they put Ohio State at number 2. It was when they put Ohio State at number 2. That was where the mistake was made. It's kind of hard to have a team fall from 2 to out and have the number 6 team jump in. It's hard to do that.
They were number 7.
It's hard to do that. No, Wisconsin was number 7. It's hard to do that. So that's where the committee made the mistake. So, yeah, see, they're number 7.
Penn State was number 7.
See, it's difficult for them to even drop Ohio State to 5 and Penn State to 4. Penn State has to leapfrog Michigan and Wisconsin, which they beat Wisconsin. They did that, but it was hard enough to leapfrog Michigan.
You
It was
have
hard to leapfrog Michigan.
What you have to do is put Washington in at number 3, Penn State at number 4. Let them try their luck, or at least put Ohio State at number 4.
But the college football playoff is not let them try their luck. That's a horrible analogy.
Or at least have Ohio State down at number 4 because they're the one team that doesn't have a title, so at least put them down at number 4 and let them get a whooping by Alabama out in the first round.
Well, we thought that was going to happen too. To a few years ago when Ohio State was playing Alabama, and Alabama was this good, maybe even better, and Ohio State was as good as they are this year, and Ohio State came up with the upset.
But this is another thing. If Ohio State and Penn State just switched team names or uniforms, and Penn State had the brand of Ohio State, they would be in.
Penn State used to have that brand.
But they don't now.
Actually, kind of do.
They're not expected to be good, so they're not going to be put up. They're an up and comer.
If this was still the BCS or that we were still relying on the AP poll, yes, I understand the branding thing, but this is the this is the playoff committee. They can't rely on branding. They don't. I guarantee they don't. It's a horribly wrong conspiracy theory.
It's not a conspiracy theory. It's just human nature. If Alabama next year, they're going to be placed at number 1 after they win the title. Now,
that's not guaranteed, was it?
Now that doesn't, or whoever wins the title is going to be placed at number 1. But that doesn't guarantee you that they're going to have such a great season as they did last year.
Can I tell you
It's just because they're expected to be good.
Can I tell you something?
It's the same thing.
Did you know that Ohio State went 11-1, and they didn't start number 1? Did you know that? 11-1 is by no means a bad season. It's a great season. It's a heck of a season.
They didn't win the title last year.
Yeah, but I mean, they
But they weren't expected to be the best team in the country, and that's what I'm saying. If let's just say Alabama wins the title this year. Next year they're going to be placed at number 1 just because they're expected to be good. Ohio State is put in the playoffs because they're expected to be good.
no.
If
if
Penn State played Ohio State again,
you are wrong. You are completely wrong because the only rankings that actually matter are the college football playoff rankings. The AP poll is kind of just to get an idea where your team is. So no matter who,
I'm not saying about the AP poll. I'm saying about the college football playoff rankings.
Can I tell you something? Did you know that the college football playoff rankings don't come out till October, and the season starts in late August? So it gives them some time to figure that out.
I'm talking about it at the beginning of the season. Anyhow,
You
but
are
listen.
wrong because the college football playoff ranking doesn't come out at the beginning
No.
of the season.
I mean, at the beginning of the season next year, the AP poll.
Well, that's what I'm trying to talk about because the AP poll has no effect. The only thing that the AP poll is to give you an idea of where teams are. That's not how the way it used to be, but now that is the way it used to be. That's its only purpose.
What I'm trying to say is, what I was trying to work up to is, they should run it on an algorithm so that you can have no biases.
Well, I mean, maybe the AP poll has slight bias, but it doesn't matter. The College Football Playoff Committee has no bias.
How do you know? How do you know that they don't expect Ohio State to be better, and that's why they put them in the playoff? I mean, from what I have seen, if Ohio State and Penn State played 5 times, Penn State would win 3. And so, I think that you would put the better team in over. They had a loss early in the season. They are a changed and a different team. Both of their losses were bad ones early in the season.
Why can't you say the same about Ohio State? They had a loss earlier in the season. And they
It was to Penn State, though.
Yes, but they're a change, a better team. Both teams are changed. How do we know that Ohio State did improve more than Penn State?
Look, who has the title?
Penn State does.
Who has the head-to-head matchup win?
Penn State does. Who has the better record? Ohio State does.
One game.
Who has the better loss? Ohio State does.
Better loss.
Yeah. I'd say that a loss to Penn State is a lot worse than a huge loss to Michigan. Or they had like one loss earlier in the year.
Minnesota.
No, it wasn't Minnesota. They beat Minnesota. They actually beat Minnesota. I looked that up recently. They lost to Michigan and then one other team that they shouldn't have lost to. They probably should have lost to Michigan, but that other team, there's no reason.
I just don't see how you can put in Ohio State over Penn State, or at least.
I just explained.
But I mean, you couldn't keep out Washington. Okay, you couldn't do that. But with a win like Penn State had, when they were down 28-7.
Why would you keep out Washington? Why would you? Of course you can't keep out Washington.
I know.
Why did you bring that into the conversation?
Because Washington guaranteed their spot, and Ohio State's the only team. I think that you shouldn't be allowed in the playoff, except for on a very rare occasion, if you don't have a championship. And this is not that rare occasion.
Okay, then give me an example of a rare occasion.
Like if it was instead Ohio State playing Michigan in the title, and Michigan lost, and that was their only loss, they could still make it in. But that's the only way I see. I don't see how you can have in the conference champion and not and if you went to every person in the committee right now and you asked them, who's a better team, Ohio State or Penn State? I think they would find it very hard to say that Ohio State is a better team. since they don't have the championship and they don't have the head-to-head matchup.
Guess what? If that's true, then why is Ohio State in the playoff?
That's my point. Why are they in? Doesn't make any sense. They don't deserve to be in.
Well, obviously they voted on it. That's what they do, and more of them said that Ohio State was a better team.
Correction. More of them said that Ohio State should be number 3. Not more of them said that Ohio State was a better team. It wasn't a vote between Penn State and Ohio State. It was a vote on where should the teams be ranked.
Voted on different scenarios.
I just don't agree with this at all. I don't understand how you can keep out conference champion, conference champion, head-to-head matchup, win. No conference championship, no head-to-head matchup, win. They're lost. And then they should have 2 losses. And I actually think that
Actually, no.
let's just say
because they outplayed Michigan in that game.
No, they did not.
How many field goals did Ohio State miss? Like 3. I mean, take out the kicker, put a better kicker in, just slightly better, and they won that game. Piece of cake.
But they don't have a better kicker. All that I'm saying is just look at it and just see. It doesn't make any sense how you can put in. That's all I'm trying to say here. Is that how do you put in a team with no championship over a team that has a head-to-head win and championship? How do you do that? How do you do that?
You made the mistake earlier in the year of over ranking, and then you'd have no choice. I'm sorry. That's it. And I'm trying. I think Penn State should be in the playoff too. But I'm trying to tell you, maybe the committee has some sense, unlike you think, because they're smarter than you. I can tell you that.
They probably do have sense, and probably do know more. And they just, I actually do think that they made that mistake earlier in the year. And Penn State also had a loss early in the year, and it's all early in the year that. I mean, often you have seen the committee forgive teams that made mistakes early in the year and got a lot better later on. Like, Auburn, for instance. We are extremely sorry, but we've been having some technical difficulties. Please fast forward the podcast to 23 minutes, 10 seconds. We're very sorry. Thank you. Okay, so now let's move on to Heisman possibilities. I mean, in my mind, it can't be Deshaun Watson. It's going to be Lamar Jackson or it's going to be Jake Browning because Jake Browning is the best passer in college football right now. And also, Lamar Jackson has more rushing yards than any other quarterback. Deshaun Watson only has passing yards, and they're very misleading sometimes on passing yards. Because when the receivers catch the ball,
rushing because also passing yards also count yards after catch. So rushing yards are actually more accurate for the quarterback's stats. And also interceptions. I've always wondered how in the world do they count a ball that's tipped up way up high in the air so that it's easily caught if it's right to the receiver? It shouldn't be called an interception.
It shouldn't be thrown where it could be tipped up.
Well, if you're throwing it right to him, if you're throwing it right to the receiver.
Well, I mean, if the receiver tips it up, but if the defender tips it up, there's...
Yeah, I was talking about the receiver. If the receiver just randomly tips it up and he should have caught it and then it's caught, that shouldn't count as an interception, although it is, sadly. That's a great misunderstanding. If you don't have good receivers, you can't have good passing yards.
So
I think that will conclude our episode. Thank you for watching. If you like. If you subscribe, please subscribe.
And
as always, but not
really as always, but now almost always,